That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Orphan First Kill, the 8th film directed by William Brent Bell, and of course a sequel to...
Your cousin?
No.
Oh.
A sequel to Wame Call It Sarah's 2009 film Orphan. It is being released in theaters and on Paramount Plus on August 19th, 2022.
It's a prequel.
It is a prequel.
But I guess also a sequel. This movie did not give me what I needed.
No, there are some things. It wasn't a total wash, but I think it could have been a lot more. It could have been a lot stronger. It could have been a lot more subversive and weird, especially considering if you're familiar with the first Orphan film from 2009. There's a really well placed gag that you don't really see coming if you know nothing about it.
Right. The gag of the first film is that this little girl is actually a 30-year-old woman suffering from a hormonal disorder that causes her to have like a case of dwarfism, and she just looks like a kid.
And that piled on top of the usual themes I like in a bad seed, good son type bad child movie. But
exactly. Gave it like a nice little punch. But this film, because it's a prequel, first of all, we already know that this person is going to persist.
She will survive.
She will survive. We already know that this is a grown-ass lady pretending to be a kid. Mm-hmm. So then it's like, well, what else she got? Mm-hmm. And this story does have a gag. So the basic story is, what's her name?
Leena.
Leena is this woman pretending to be a little kid. So we find her in a psychiatric hospital because she's already killed a family.
Played by Isabelle Fuhrman from the first film.
Which already it drove me crazy because the film's called The First Kill, but this is not her first kill.
No.
She already killed a family. So
5, 6, 7, 8. Somewhere
right, so this is like 5, 6, 7, 8 kill. But anyway, she's in the psychiatric hospital for that. She very easily escapes. She finds an ad or like a post for a missing girl, and this missing girl is from this rich family in Connecticut in the United States, but Leena is in Russia, I believe.
She's in Estonia.
Sorry,
but she is taken to Moscow.
She dresses up as her little girl self, and we get the backstory on how she has the scars on her neck and all that, but very little backstory. She gets picked up by the police and she says, my name's Esther, I'm a missing girl, my parents are in the United States. So they associate that with that post she found. Her mom flies from Connecticut to Moscow, played by Julia Stiles.
Mm-hmm. Tricia.
We can get into all of it, but they just very easily throw this girl at her and say, take her ass back home.
She's like, okay.
Takes her home, and it's weird. So it's Julia Stiles, her husband, and then their like teenage son. And they're like this super rich family, as we're told. They don't really live a lifestyle that to me seemed lavish enough to make sense. But
I mean, they have a palatial kind of estate. It has an east and west wing, but
I don't think it read. It needed to be a little more luxe for how these people were acting. So
I agree.
But anyway,
there's no staff.
You're right. They do live in a big ass house, but the gag is Julia knows that's not her daughter. Mm-hmm. How does she know that's not her daughter? Because her daughter's dead. How does she know her daughter's dead? Because her son killed his sister on accident. The son's a dick. Like, it's made very clear he's just an asshole and bullied his younger sister, and they were roughhousing or something. They don't explain how he killed her, but he killed her, and the mom covered it up. So this little girl's buried in the backyard somewhere, and she made it out like a missing kid thing. Mm-hmm. But the dad didn't know that and doesn't know that. So when he meets Esther, he's just very open to that being his daughter. And she does kind of look like an older version of the picture we see. But it's weird from the beginning. Like, she doesn't know a lot of things about the family, obviously. So it's pretty late in the film when we find out the gag. And then Julia Stiles, the mom, tells Esther, like, you're going to do what I tell you because my husband can't go through another loss. Like, you need to pretend that you're my daughter until I figure something else out. But then it's clear that Esther is not going to fall in line. So literally, Esther or Julia Stiles and the son tell Esther, well, now we got to kill you.
Once that reveal happens, and it's because Julia Stiles kills the detective that is kind of hot on Esther's trail, then everything really unravels
very quickly.
Kind of quickly.
And then Esther obviously doesn't get killed. She kills her brother first. Then the house catches on fire. Then there's a final scene where Esther and Julia Stiles are on the roof, hanging from the roof from this burning house, and the dad shows up because he was out of town. And he's freaking out like, oh my God. And he has to make a decision who to save.
Much like the good son.
Because for some reason he can't pull both up, like one at a time. And he pulls Esther, and Julia falls to the ground. In the only shocking scene of the movie to me, because when she hits the ground, her head explodes.
Splat, yeah.
And then, right before Julia falls, she tells the husband, like, she's a grown-ass woman, and then falls. So the husband's like, what? And then he's holding his daughter, like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're safe. And for some reason, smushes her face in the most awkward way that causes her fake teeth to fall out. And he sees her old dingy-ass, yellow-ass teeth, and he's like, you're a monster! And then she pushes him off the roof.
Well, I think it's played where it's kind of like he falls, because he's discombobulated.
So now he's dead.
But also, I don't know how the correlation between dingy yellow teeth means you're in your 30s.
Yeah.
But also, this little girl's been gone 4 years, so... I think a lot of the problem is with this script that didn't take advantage of a lot of things.
Well, before you get to that, the ending is we see that now Esther has been taken into custody. Mm-hmm. She's with her therapist, and the therapist says, I found a very reputable adoption agency. And then obviously, now her name's Esther. She's going to go to what is the 2009 film.
She deserves a reputable one.
Yeah.
There are so many odd things that are used to trip Esther up that don't make any sense. Like... her therapist has this bird. This girl's been gone for 4 years. Who knows what's happened to her? She has an Estonian accent. And they get all upset about she didn't realize that the parrot is not a macaw. Because that bird has since died and it's been replaced. It's like, that you're expecting a lot.
This writing, can I just start with what I wanted this to be? Because we all, like, if you're familiar with the first film, we already know where this is going. There's no gag anymore. So what do? What we should have done is we can start the same way. She breaks out of the psychiatric hospital, decides to impersonate this missing little girl. The mom, Julia Stiles, shows up. And immediately, once the Russian authorities release her and they're on that private jet back to Connecticut, she looks at this girl and says, listen, bitch, I know you're not my daughter. This is how it's going down. And then the bulk of the film are these two grown-ass women, like, battling each other because they both have something over each other.
And that would have made for a very satisfying
very
film.
Campy, all the weird shit that could have happened, the sexual shit.
If only we had let a homosexual write this instead of David Coggeshall, the author of The Haunting in Connecticut 2. Yes, and also it doesn't really make sense for when Julia Stiles, Tricia, eventually reveals how nasty she is. I don't believe that she would have sat on that plane and not have already kind of gone through that. That doesn't add up for me.
Let me just go through my notes. In the beginning, the opening in the psychiatric ward, there's a prison guard or the mental health associate, whatever you want to call him, who goes into her room and is immediately seduced by her. I thought that was so uncomfortable.
I thought that she'd been playing a game with him. She'd been grooming him, is what I thought. He brought her ribbons for her sliced up wrists.
That would actually make sense, but she kills him, like bashes him in the head.
And there are cameras placed in that room. And
oh my God. For a girl who they know she's a grown-ass woman. We hear the administrator of this psychiatric facility telling the art therapist dealing with her, like, this is a grown-ass lady. She is not to be trusted. She has killed a family before. We don't know what else she's done. She is very dangerous. And then they have her in this, like, I've worked in a psychiatric ward, 2 of them actually, and they both have more security than this little place. So already I'm like, this is lame. And she breaks out so easily. One funny thing though is that we see that she's made a backpack out of a straitjacket. I actually want to search online to see if I can find a backpack designed like that. Then there's another patient in the facility, this woman who's like a rabid animal.
Who looks like Agnes Moorehead in Hush Hush, Sweet Charlotte.
Yes, actually. And it looks like Esther has trained her to be violent by offering her candy.
As one does.
And we see this woman be violent before. I'm like, how is she not strapped down somewhere? We find her like sweeping the lobby of that makes no sense.
It doesn't make, yeah.
And then Esther uses that girl to kill like another guard so she can escape the place.
Presumably the guard that should have been watching the monitors. Also, why are they speaking English in Estonia?
Okay.
And the accent thing is odd, but they can explain away by her developmental years were spent in captivity in this other country, so that makes sense. But her English wouldn't be so fluent.
No.
And we need to explain why. And also, wouldn't it make more sense that she doesn't speak
as Leena, her English wouldn't be so fluent.
Right, and wouldn't that make for more interesting interactions with her family in Connecticut.
Well, yeah.
Because it's a lot like that documentary, and there's a film about it called The Chameleon, about that kid that shows up, and I think the chameleon is Canadian or French Canadian, and the family's like, the kid doesn't speak English and is of different ethnicity, and they're like, yeah, that's our kid, and everybody thought, well, maybe they killed their real kid.
Yeah, if the story was going to be the same, where they give us the gag later on that Julia knows that's not her daughter, and she knew that before she even flew out there, then I wish, yes, that this Esther girl would have sort of tried to play up the trauma she may have experienced, and like how her English is no longer good, and that's why she's so weird. They don't even do that. But if they didn't want to do that, then they should have revealed that her mom knew she wasn't her daughter much sooner, so that all of these things you're mentioning, that they just play so awkward and weird.
Because what major detriment is the dad, played by Rossif Sutherland from Possessor and something else we reviewed. Oh, The Retreat from Pat Mills. He's just like this big dumb dog.
That characterization was so weird. Yeah, he's just like this rich guy. We don't know how they have money. And then she makes a point that my family came here as, like, they settled
on the Mayflower.
On the Mayflower. And
we matter.
We matter. We own this country. And
yeah,
it's
that's
like,
a theme going on, yeah.
That's why I'm saying I feel like their lifestyle should have been much more lavish. That house should have been way nicer. They should have had staff. There's so many things that could have made this more interesting.
And this man misses his daughter, who's the only one that doesn't know that she's really dead, and maybe holed up in a wing and kind of was a depleted person that is suddenly revived after coming back, because the Julia Stiles is all excited about, like, oh, he's having sex with me again. He's interested in my philanthropy.
Or if they would have had staff like housekeeper, butler, nanny, and then those people, because, you know, we would assume that someone at that, you know, of that stature who's rich, and Julia Stiles' character is like doing fundraisers, probably didn't spend a lot of time with her kid, right? A nanny probably raised her. So what would have been more interesting is the house staff who actually spends time with the kid before she went missing. They're like, something's not right. And then maybe that Esther kills the staff because she can tell they know something's wrong.
And I think the dad should have wanted the daughter back so bad. It's like Titan, where it doesn't even matter that nothing adds up about this girl.
I have so many notes about things that don't make sense. Like, before when she's breaking out of the psychiatric hospital, the art therapist sees her escape, sees that people have been injured. And what does the therapist do? Get out of her car. Like, I would have started that engine and drove right the hell off. And then, of course, Esther gets in the trunk of the car, makes her way back to the art therapist's house, kills her, breaks into her house. And then she searches on the internet, missing girls America, 9 to 12 years old. Yeah. Like, okay.
And finds one that looks, you know, really just like her. That art teacher was an idiot as well.
Then, like, the character of the brother, like, and
Gunnar, played by Matthew Finlan.
I mean, he did a good job of being a dick, but then it's like, even his friends are so excessively insensitive, and it just reads like, I'm assuming they're trying to establish, like, he hated his sister, and he knows this is not his sister, and that's why he doesn't care about her. But
again, that doesn't add up how he initially treats her, though. Either.
Right.
But what it does, it's kind of like with Don't Breathe 2, where it's, in the original film, the antagonist has now become the protagonist in the sequel, because I was rooting for Esther because she's just surviving. These are vile, terrible people. Like, go ahead and kill them.
Yeah, but so I wish they would have played up on that, like that. Yeah, obviously Esther's a villain because she's conning people, but if we would have adjusted the story to us knowing very early on, and it's these two women battling, then I feel like, yeah, the conflict of sort of like, I don't know who I'm rooting for, but this is a terrible situation.
And also, you know, we, as you had mentioned afterwards, this is a rated R movie. Why aren't we actually utilizing what we can?
Okay, this is a prequel, so it's not the first kill. We should have focused on that first family she killed, and then maybe we understand, like, how did Esther even think that this is a con that she would initiate, and like, where does she get the fake teeth from, and how does she handle, like, adult women things like menstruation and, like, her breast. I mean, we do see her binding them, but it's like the psychiatric administrator person says, like, she's a master con artist, but then when we see her in action at this house before it's told to her that Julia knows she's not her daughter, she's not very good at the con. She's not very discreet. She carries around this, like, Bible with all her secrets in it, and she just leaves it random places. Julia ultimately finds it and reads through it. She's like changing with the door open, doesn't lock it. I just thought, like,
I was meant more on the sexuality. It's like clear that in this film it establishes she is attracted to the dad, but I don't know. This is a grown woman who wants to have sex with men but looks like a child. So I don't know why we weren't kind of playing with the innate discomfort of that.
Yeah. It's I don't even know if I want to go through all the things I didn't like. There's a scene where Julia is trying to drug Esther, like she makes her like macaroni and cheese with hot dogs in it and then poisons it. But then Esther doesn't want to eat it, so she feeds it to her pet rat. I don't know where this rat came from.
That's another thing. Like, there's this rat in the grates that keeps just coming to see her, like it missed her.
She feeds the rat the macaroni.
Like Willard.
Yeah, she feeds it the macaroni, the rat dies, and then the next morning, Esther makes everyone breakfast and makes Julia her, like, morning smoothie and forces her to drink it because the dad is like, yeah, drink it, your daughter made it for you. And then we see that she put the dead rat in the smoothie.
That's not ground up all the way.
And then, of course, like, I thought that was unnecessary. There's a scene where Esther tries to kill her mom and brother by pushing them in front of the train, but that doesn't even come close to happening. So then she runs off in the mom's Range Rover and is driving. And then that song Maniac is playing. I feel like that tone...
There are elements there because Julia Stiles also has a really good line where she's confronting Esther and she calls her a mutant grifter.
Yeah, like I feel like there was the potential to be like sort of like over the top camp. Like this could have been like whatever happened to Baby Jane or something. But
but it also could have been creepy.
Or it could have been creepy, but it's just like it doesn't work in either direction.
No, and I think the very final shot is aping Hitchcock's Psycho as well, with that he wouldn't even hurt a fly, where we see, the changes in her facial expression over who wouldn't want to adopt a girl like Esther.
I really didn't like it. It's in the trailer where Esther's walking through the house on fire, which is like, if you know the first film and then you see the trailer for this film, it's like, well, obviously she's going to kill this family and the house is going to burn down, which is exactly what happens. But the CGI of that and her walking through it was kind of ridiculous. And then that song, The Glory of Love, is playing. It's just...
I think she's watching Shirley Temple in A Little Princess and she bludgeons someone to death and you hear Shirley Temple's little voice in the background. I thought that was a nice creepy element.
Like you said, there are moments that I think could had those been sort of the... Amplified and been the main tone of the film and adjusted the plot a little, this could have been a lot more fun. But as it is, I was really disappointed.
Well, especially this is William Brent Bell's 8th movie. And we've seen several of them. We've seen The Devil Inside. We've seen The Boy and Brahms, The Boy 2, which has some fun parts with Katie Holmes. And we reviewed Separation, his last film with Mamie Gummer, that has as the clown spirit haunting this boy. That I didn't like that. But it's fine. I thought it was shot well. I like Karim Hussain for the most part, despite the Firestarter remake.
Lastly, for me, the 2009 film, the main girl, that actor's name?
Isabelle Fuhrman.
When she filmed that movie, she was like 12. So it was a little girl playing a little girl who's a grown-ass woman. In this movie, this actor is 25 playing like a 10-year-old. So it's kind of meta in that she's actually doing what the character's doing. But the problem for me is she doesn't look like a little kid. I thought she looked like an adult lady, like a lady in her 20s, and then they film it in a way that makes her look very small.
From behind, like that Celine Dion, Eileen.
Yeah, it's like Eileen. So, I don't know. That kind of also took me out, because I already knew what she was.
I just don't understand the prequel setup. Why not just make it a straight up sequel and we continue on the adventures of Esther, much like Pippi Longstocking or
that would have made
Anne
more
of
sense
Green
to
Gables or
something. Yeah.
But the dark side. If you like Isabelle Fuhrman, I do recommend her performance in The Novice from last year is quite good.
What would you give this movie?
I didn't like it, but Julie Stiles, I thought, was kind of well cast against type, and I really kind of liked her as a brunette. I think she looked really good. She was reminding me of 70s era Glenda Jackson a couple times, not in like the acting chops per se, but just a certain vibe.
She's the best part of
presence.
the movie.
But and Fuhrman is fine, but I think 2.5 is fair.
Oh, I would give it 2. I didn't care for this.
I know.
I was disappointed. Anything else?
No.
Hit the thanks button. Listen to our podcast. Bye.